Now that we have created our new bucket, let's see how we can configure it and prepare it for use of hosting a static website on top of it. In order to do that, let's first navigate inside our new bucket. We will find our new bucket called static app and click on it. Now we are inside our new bucket location and we can see that AWS S3 admin console is informing us that the bucket static app is empty. This of course makes sense since we just created this brand new bucket. As we fill up this bucket with our content, we can have any number of files and folders here. For our particular example, the code for our application or the static website is just this single index.html file. But this is just for our demonstration purpose. In fact, the website could be as complex as you need it to be with hundreds or thousands of files. Anyway, coming back to our website code, we are going to upload this index.html to our bucket. Then we will configure our bucket so that it can serve as our hosting provider for our static web application. To upload our content, we will navigate to our bucket within the S3 Management Console and click on this Start Upload button. A new dialog box appears which says drag and drop files to upload here. We have to select all the files that are part of our static application and add them here. So in this case, let's add our index.html file. With S3, we can upload files up to 5 terabytes each, and there is no limit on maximum number of files that we can upload. So basically we can upload as many files as we need, even if they are very large files. We only pay for whatever we end up using, and it is a straightforward pay-as-you-go pricing model. The prices are pretty reasonable as well, but they are always changing. As we mentioned earlier, AWS is always making their operations efficient and they constantly pass on the savings to their customers. Alright, we have already added our file. Now let's move forward. We will click on the Set Details button at the bottom. And now this upload wizard is giving us 3 storage options and an option whether we want to use encryption for this particular file or set of files we are uploading. The 3 options for storage are use standard storage, use standard infrequent access storage, and use reduced redundancy storage. Standard storage, as the name implies, is standard. It's used for most application workloads. Then there is infrequent access storage, which provides us great write speeds, but not really great read speeds. So if the application that we are trying to build lies within that type of a domain, for example, let's say we are writing an application where we continuously write logs, but we seldom read them for analytics purposes, then this infrequent access storage might be a good fit as it incurs less cost. Finally, we have the reduced redundancy storage. Whenever we upload something to S3, it automatically creates replicas of the files or objects in different availability zones. AWS does that automatically for redundancy purposes. Thus, if AWS itself experiences any disaster scenario, our data is still safe in another availability zone, which is typically in a different geographical region. But if we don't need this redundancy, then we can select reduce redundancy storage, where AWS will not make the replicas automatically. This again reduces the amount of money that we have to pay per storage unit. In this case, we are just going to use standard storage. Now, apart from this, we also have an option for server-side encryption. Since we are just creating a simple static application here, we don't need any server-side encryption. It is only required when we store some critical and confidential content. For example, if our company stores confidential content like credit card numbers, user passwords, or any data that needs to be protected, and we want to protect against the scenario where someone breaks into our company's AWS cloud, then this encryption will prevent them from directly accessing our data. So these options are important for you to understand and configure properly to balance the performance characteristics provided by AWS versus the average cost each option will incur. So for now, we will pick standard storage and move forward. We will click on the Set Permissions button at the bottom. Now here we can customize permissions like who can have read, edit, delete, or other permissions for the data that we are uploading to our bucket. Since we intend to serve our content on the public internet, we should make sure that our content is visible to everyone. In this case, let's make all the data in this bucket readily visible to anyone who accesses our website. For this, we have a permission provided here which reads make everything public. Let's select this option and make everything public. If we forget to do this, later we will see an error when we try to access our website link. The error message will say something like access denied or something similar. And this permission check is the reason behind it. In case we do not intend to serve this content to everyone, then of course by all means we should lock down the security and assign tight security rules for these objects. So depending upon your requirements, you must remember to configure the necessary permissions for your S3 objects. Let's move forward. We will click on the Set Metadata button at the bottom. Here we can set up some HTTP headers for our responses for our objects that we uploaded into S3. They could be cache control headers or content type headers, etc. In this case, we do not need any customization like that. So let's just click Start Upload button. This will upload our index.html file to our new bucket. So our upload is in progress now. Finally, it is done. And AWS S3 console is confirming that our files have been uploaded. Now, once we have completed this step, let's select the Properties tab at the top. A new pane appears on the right side of the bucket with some details. Let's click on the Static Website Hosting section here. And then let's click the checkbox for Enable Website Hosting under it. In the Index Document section, let's specify index.html, which is the starting point or the entry point for our website. Now there are two other things that we can configure here. One is the error document. That is, if someone enters a URL that does not exist in our bucket, then this particular error document will be rendered for them. It could be something like the page you are requesting is not found, or a 404 error, or something along those lines. We can specify this in the error document section. In this case, we are not going to configure this. The other one is the redirect all requests to another hostname checkbox. This provides us with some amount of dynamic rendering even for our static applications, thanks to the functionality provided by AWS S3. Here we can use a particular syntax to configure whether certain URLs should go to some other host. Now this is a very application specific configuration. We don't need to understand this in order to use AWS S3, which is the focus of this session. So let's skip it. For the time being, just remember that AWS S3 can be used to host static web applications by creating a bucket, enabling it for website hosting, making sure that the permissions were set to public, and then uploading whatever files we have into that bucket. And once we have done that, then we can specify the entry point to our application, which in this case is index.html. Finally, let's click on the Save button to save our configuration that we have made to our bucket.